If you'd like to know how to paint this eye-catching iris in watercolour using just 5 colours, whatever your painting ability, stick around and I'll show you how, because it's easier than you think. I've done a really simple outline of the iris, and I'll put a traceable line drawing and the reference photograph in our Facebook group, details of which will be in the description box below. If you don't like drawing freehand, don't worry, here's an information card on the top of your screen which shows you how to trace it down. I'm using just 5 colours today, and don't worry if you don't have these colours, just use the nearest that you have, and I'll explain why a little later on in this video. I have my jar of water, my kitchen towel to pat my brush on, and we are good to go. I've mixed 2 puddles on my palette. We have a purple tone and a blue tone, and you'll need to add quite a lot of water to these because they want to be really weak in consistency. So to begin with, we are going to be working wet in wet, which means that we're going to apply the water to the areas where we want the paint to be placed. I'm using a number 3 size spotter for this, but use whichever brush you feel comfortable with. Just applying the water where you want the paint to be dropped. I'm using the tip of the brush to apply the water right up to that pencil edge so that the paint will be accurately placed. I'm beginning by dropping in the purple tone, as you can see, and just pushing it with the tip of the brush into the area where I've applied the water. And then just dropping in a little bit of blue and just mixing the two together. As the paint begins to settle, you can see me pushing it into the corners using the tip of the brush like this, just spreading it where the pencil line is. I'm cleaning my brush and just patting it on the kitchen towel so that it's just damp, which gives me the ability to push it into these very small areas like this. This is really simple to do and just takes a little bit of practice. I'm just moving the paint to the pencil line with the tip of my brush. Working petal by petal gives you the ability to control the paint. For this petal here, you'll need to apply the water on the outside edge only because the inside of this petal is white. So you need to keep your water away from this area here. So you're only applying the water where you want that paint to go. And now I'm dropping in the purple tone, right up to that pencil edge. And then some blue. I'm just pushing the paint into the water that we've applied to create a shape where we want the veins to be placed eventually when we build up our layers. And I'll continue this process for all the petals on the iris. I recommend that you watch this video all the way through. That way you can watch the painting develop, particularly through that awkward phase that you can sometimes think of it being wrong. This video is a little longer than usual, so set aside a bit of time for yourself. I said at the beginning of this video that use whatever colours you have. I want painting to be accessible for everybody, and we don't always have that particular colour within our set. So just use a purple tone or a blue tone that you have within your palette. The colours that I've chosen are purple, permanent violet, French ultramarine, permanent rose and sap. The kit that I'm using today are from a brand called Mungyo, but it doesn't matter what colours that you have. As I said, use the nearest to these. Colours will vary from brand to brand anyway, so just use pinks, greens, purples and blues. Now I'm mixing the green tones. So we have sap green, which is actually quite a leafy colour green in this particular brand. So you may want to add some lemon yellow or something like that if you've got a normal sap green. And I'm also adding some French ultramarine to darken up the colour. If you don't have this colour, then you can mix your own green by using French ultramarine with cadmium lemon or something like that. You can see me just mix in a watery petal as well so that we have a difference in colour and consistency to this paint. As we apply these washes to the leaves, as you can see, as long as the greens vary in colour, it's absolutely fine. Now we are working wet on dry because we want to have a little bit more control over the paint. The areas here are slightly smaller and it really does help with paint application. I'm mixing and matching the colours as I go, paying careful attention to the reference photograph. I said at the beginning of this video that the reference photograph and the line drawing will be in the Facebook group. You're more than welcome to join us there, where you can post your finished paintings and of course have access to the free reference photograph and the line drawing. I will put all the links in the description box underneath this video. At the beginning, the washes will need to be watery and light so that we can build the colours as we go through without the colours becoming muddy. And with the base tones now in place, we can really start to build up our colours. I'm using a 0 size spotter brush here, so any brush that you have with a really small tip will work. Now that we have our outline in place, we can just go around the shapes that we've created by doing the initial water glaze. You can see how I'm using the splurges of water at the beginning as an advantage here to start creating the shapes where the veins will almost eventually go. Dip in between the purple tone and the blue tone. You can adjust these as you look at your reference photograph. You'll see the definite switches in colour. But you can see how by applying that initial wet and wet wash, we now have the ability to use that paint to our advantage, working on the little splurges of colour that are there already. I hope that makes sense. Just following the shape that I've already applied. Just building up the colours really, really slowly. Mixing blue and purple tones to a slightly thicker consistency, we can now start to apply the veins over the areas that we've already painted. Because we've already mapped in the colours, this makes the process really, really simple, and just outlining where we've applied the paint. I do apologise for my hand being in the way here. But you can see how I'm outlining the areas of paint that are on the paper by making them look deliberate. Here you can see me mixing a watery mix of permanent rose, and I'm using this to glaze over the purple and blue tones that we've already applied. This will really enhance the colour and make the colours sing and jump out. By glazing another colour of watercolour on top of a colour, it really makes our paintings come to life and adds another dimension, as you can see. Just adding a little bit of drama where you see fit. You can see me here just continuing the process on the other petals. Switching between the colours that I have on my palette, looking carefully as always at my reference photograph, working wet in dry. and just blending that paint into the existing wash by just using a soft wiggling motion with my brush. I'm adding a tiny bit of green tone to the purple mix and just applying it here because I felt that the colour was just too white. And the same on the base of this petal. I'm mixing sap green to a thicker consistency, and I'm going to be dipping between the sap green that I've just mixed and the blue-green tone that I have on my palette. You can see that I've added a little bit of water to the blue tone and just adding this looser mix to just give a little bit of variation in tone and contrast. Making sure that I add the brighter tones just to give it that little bit more definition where I feel it is needed. Once everything is dry, I'm using a soft synthetic flat brush just to lift out some of the paint so that we can begin to add some form to the petal. This is really simple to do. Just use a damp brush and then pat it dry with some kitchen towel like this. Eventually we will be painting around these shapes. So just pull them out here and there, particularly so here where I'm drawing a curved line with a brush and lifting out that colour. So now that everything's dry, I'm enhancing the veins that we've already painted in and just making them stronger in colour where I felt it was needed. We've already mapped in those colours, so it's just a case of enhancing them with a stronger tone. By the way, if you are enjoying this video, then do hit that like button. It just lets YouTube know that you're enjoying my content and I can continue to bring these videos to you every single week. I'm just adding a little bit more of the blue tone to the base of this petal here where I felt it needed strengthening, and just continuing the process of the existing wash on the iris, as you can see. Because we have that base layer in now, it just makes it a whole lot easier to do. Now I'm applying some veining over the areas that we've lifted out to enhance them. It really makes those areas look deliberate and it really adds a bit of drama to your painting. Just pulling that paint down to create these little veins, as you can see. Dipping between the two colours to make sure that the colour of your vein looks really, really natural. You want to have the colour of the paint that you use to paint around the veins to be the same colour as the area on the petal. So make sure that you change your colours as the tone changes within the petal itself, working around those areas that we lifted out earlier. Now at this point it's up to you whether you want to put a background in or not, but so many of you have asked me to do one. So when your painting is dry, and it doesn't have to be finished, I'm using a number 6 size brush to create a water glaze around the outside of the iris like this. Just be careful as you hit the paint so that you paint around it, and try not to get any of the water on the iris, but honestly this is so easy to do and so much fun. So make sure that you're quite liberal with the application of your water and just go around the outside like this. If you do have some water spilling over onto the iris, don't worry, you can lift it out later or even just let it naturally blur into the iris flower. It doesn't really matter, but just have fun with it. I'm working 1/2 at a time, just makes it a little bit easier, and you can see me dropping in the purple tone, the blue tone and the green tones and just letting them settle into the paper like this. Just gently moving them around with my brush. Because the paper is wet, you can easily move the paint. Because we will be enhancing the outside of these petals, don't worry that it looks a little bit lost at the moment. It's all part of the watercolor process. Don't be frightened of it, have fun with it. Stress-free painting. So just keep dropping in these colors like this and let them blur into the paper. As the paper dries, you'll see that they will just naturally blur out and have the really, really soft effect. It just looks beautiful. If you enjoy botanical painting and want to take it to the next level, then head over to my Patreon site where we have full-length botanical art tutorials to help you really level up on your watercolor painting game. You can paint really vibrant botanicals like this, and I will put all the details in the description box below. Now that the painting is dry, I'm using my flat synthetic brush just to tidy up some of the edges on the iris like this, where the paint has overlapped. Everything is dry now, so we need to enhance the other petals that we haven't quite finished yet by using the same colours as before and going over them one by one, enhancing those veins and putting in a little bit more detail. So many of you have asked me to put a background in some of my paintings, which I've done here. I'll also put an information card on the top of the screen right now where I'll show you how to paint this beautiful orchid in watercolour using a really strong dark background. So take a look at that. By the way, let me know if you'd rather have a background to your painting or do you rather have a simple botanical painting. Drop your answer in the comment box below and let me know which you prefer. So I'm just continuing to mix up my colours now to a slightly thicker consistency and carrying on applying them around the areas that we've just painted. You can see that by following the lines that have naturally occurred when we did wet and wet at the beginning, as before, we can easily form the shapes that are needed for the iris. Switching tone and colour is really important for botanical painting, although this strictly isn't botanical. Just building up those layers slowly and carefully. The paints that I'm using today, I mentioned earlier, are made by Munio and they are classed as artist quality paints, but I would put them more in a kind of student budget range, but actually these paints are incredible. I bought them on Amazon just because I'd seen someone use them and they are absolutely amazing. You get a lot of paint for your money and I highly recommend them. So do take a look at them if you're looking to splash out on some new paints. I think they cost something in the region of about £60 for £48, so you get a lot of paint for your buck. Now that I'm using a smaller brush here at number 0 size to outline some of the area to sharpen up those edges. And I'm just going to continue this process right to the end of the painting. There's quite a long way to go, so I'm just going to sit and let you watch me quietly paint.